Imagine going viral for the wrong reason. Something we see more often than perhaps we would like is people getting caught doing something horrible on camera. And very quickly, this can devolve in the person becoming famous, but not for anything that they're proud of. You can think about one of those recent events and just seeing the embarrassment, the shame that might be connected to it, because I think it's actually very helpful to understand the meaning of today's feast, which is the exaltation of the cross. Now, for us, so often we don't understand what exactly was the moral suffering of Christ when he suffered and died on the cross. We can go back almost 2,000 years, I guess about 1,700 years, to the time of Constantine. Constantine's mother was Saint Helena, and once her son had risen to the heights of power, she wanted to practice her Christian faith in a very special way. So she went to the Holy Land and was looking for the holy sites. About 300 years had passed since the death of Christ, and she wanted to uncover some of those realities, to get closer to where Christ himself had walked, had taught, had lived out his life. And so she wanted to discover the true cross of Christ. And so she goes, and I guess it would be kind of something similar to an archaeological dig, and they found 3 crosses. And so for her, this seemed to be very obviously, that must be the 3 crosses from the crucifixion at Golgotha, when Christ died with the 2 thieves. He died in between 2 thieves. And so she was kind of wondering, well, how can we figure out which one is the true cross? Which one is the one that Christ himself died on? And so they brought a man who was paralyzed, and when he touched the true cross, all of a sudden he was healed. And so we have the true cross, and we see that, and it kind of leads into the devotion to the cross that we might have. Because we don't always catch how embarrassing it was for Christ to die on the cross, even for the first Christians. Evidence of this we see in the 2nd century. The oldest piece of artwork in Christianity is a depiction of Christ on the cross, but it's a depiction that's making fun of him. It's actually a crucified donkey, and it says Alexamenos adoring his God. So it's this man in front of this crucified donkey saying that that's what he's adoring. And that's the way that they look at Christians, because it was unthinkable to die on a cross, the most horrible death possible. We lose sight of this because for us, maybe we wear a cross around our necks, maybe we have a cross or a crucifix in our dining room, in our bedroom, and we become used to the cross. But the cross was this instrument of torture, this instrument of execution. And so for people in the time of Jesus, it was not a decoration. And yet there's so much that we're able to get from the cross. The early Christians, many of them would as well die as martyrs. They would die for their faith. Martyr means witness, somebody who gives testimony to his faith, even to the point of shedding his blood. When Peter was crucified, he asked to be crucified upside down because he didn't want to die exactly the same way as Jesus. He didn't feel worthy to die the same way as Jesus. We hear in the Christological hymn in the letter of St. Paul to the Philippians that we're called to be like Jesus. Jesus, who did not, being God, didn't, hold on to that, but he chose to die in the death of a cross. We see that great love that Christ has for us in his conversation with Nicodemus, and something that we're called to as well, to respond to that great love. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son. Let us respond to his love with love. God bless.